What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sir?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss?
I don't know. I couldn't say.
Welcome to Circuit Breakers. My name is Dallas. That's Taylor. Sao Paulo y Prix. Let's jump right into it. Taylor, you're not ready? Hold on, there seems to be an issue with the Taylor car. He's signaling. Dude.
Oh my God. Poor Robin Frijns.
What a freaking race. And I feel like it was that much better because we were about ready to go. And then Frijns is like, no, please.
Yeah. You could feel the adrenaline start kicking up faster and faster. Like my heart was like, oh my God, we're getting ready to watch these cars literally slingshot themselves to the moon. And then you see Frijns just dumping in his pants on that start straight. Just an absolute overwhelming fear of my car's not going to go. And the car right behind me is faster than it's ever been. It's going to take my head off. So thank God he managed to flag down the steward. But imagine he's sitting there waving to the steward like, please help me. And the race starts. Like the view of that is so dark.
There's a steward in the bright orange jumpsuit seeing the waving. And he just waves back like, I know, it's very exciting.
Hey.
We're starting a season.
Just put your hands on the wheel there, buddy.
Well, let's start out with practice and quali for this fantastical kickoff to season 11. So this was really the first time that we got to see, at least in competition, not in the testing session in Madrid, what these cars are capable of. And I'm just going to start out with talking about Mitch Evans in the Jaguar, just taking a dump in the middle of the qualifying session, not even getting to the duels and thinking, oh, Jaguar might be in trouble if their car is just pooping out before the race even happens.
Yeah. So for those of you that didn't watch qualifying, I don't blame you. It was insanely early in the morning for us in the West here. Yeah, there was a period in which while circling and preparing to put in that preliminary group, right, the preliminary group stages, where Mitch Evans, and unfortunately, during a solid couple of laps from other drivers, Mitch Evans' car just had a software issue and came grinding to a halt on the entryway, and they needed to flag the session, leaving the qualifying groups somewhat stagnant comparatively to what we could have had going in to the duels stage. But yeah, there were some technical issues up and down the paddock throughout the weekend. I think just like starting out with the larger group at whole, and we'll get into more of this around the corner. But I also want to just apologize for everyone. You might notice that I sound somewhat like a Batman villain. I'm dealing with a minor cold coming in here as we get into the dark seasons. So just bear with me. I've got my homebrewed kombucha, and I'm running on NyQuil and a dream.
I mean, you sound great. We wouldn't even be able to tell. It sounds like you're race ready.
No, the echo that happens in your head when your sinuses get filled just makes me sound like Pee Wee Herman. I don't know. I'm sure I'm hearing myself differently than I actually sound, but it's just one of those things where, like, I feel like I'm cross-eyed staring at this screen looking at you.
Well, let's get even more cross-eyed and talk about the duels, because for the second year in a row at Sao Paulo, we have a 1,000th of a second margin. We had it last year with Pascal.exe just edging out Stoff in the final duel to take pole position. It happens again, but not with an AI, with two human drivers. So now it's like confirmed that it's not just a technological fluke.
To be fair, allegedly human. We have no idea what kind of technological advances these teams have made over the break after seeing Pascal rise, soar to momentous heights. We have no idea what kind of technological experimentation they've been able to put on their drivers over the break. I, for one, am not against the concept of some cybernetic enhancements on the Ultimate Father.
Well, and that is who is in question. Daddy Rowland for Nissan edges out Jake Dennis, and Jake got a nice new haircut, so maybe that's the cybernetics and the blonde streaks that he got done. But Daddy Rowland edges out Jake Dennis 0.001 second. What did we did this calculation last year? This was like quicker than a lightning strike. This was
Ocean Gate implosion. That's the big one I took away from it.
Yeah. So this all
it's a hummingbird's. It's a flap of a hummingbird's wings.
Yeah. And this was all leading up to what we didn't know at the time was going to be a phenomenal race. But one thing, I don't know if you caught it, but as they were showing Daddy Rowland take this razor thin edge to advance to, I believe it was the final duel. So this was the semifinals. They cut to the Nissan powers that be. And who do we see sitting in there? He tried to cover his face like it was paparazzi, but you can't hide from us. Sergio said to camera, somewhat of an upgrade. He doesn't have a seat this season, but he is, as we assume, a reserve driver for Nissan now.
No, it was confirmed that he is now a reserve driver for Nissan, which is, I think, like a very funny space to be. Because, right, you got the boot from Cairo Raceco, formerly ERT, formerly Neo 333 Racing. A long storied support tool for that entire racing allegiance. I'm almost positive that he's getting paid more as a reserve driver for Nissan than he got for his entire salaried career for Neo. And frankly, I think he's next on the docket for a quality additional race seat, if that were to be the case. But good Lord, he frankly probably got the win out of all this. He gets to just travel around and chill.
Just hang
out. And a little Sakura hat. Yeah, and a Sakura Blossom Nissan hat. So he got the benefit out of this. Dan Ticktum's got to work his ass off.
Yeah. Well, you have to think, though, he probably can't provide any meaningful insight of like, hey, what did you guys do last year? It's like, I didn't have enough energy and my team didn't tell me I didn't have enough energy.
I screamed at my team for how incompetent they were. Like literally the most aggressive vocal backlash to a racing team. Frankly, I was shocked that he made it the rest of the season without getting booted based on how much shit he talked to his own race team. It was so insane. I went back and I listened to it not that long ago, and I was just like, ooh.
Well,
yeah.
Apparently Nissan likes that spunk and that moxie because there he is. He has a seat. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get into the race. Let's get into the most notable change of this season, which is attack mode. And oh my goodness.
Oh my God, Dallas. We have to talk about attack mode.
We
would not be doing a service to the community if we did not talk about attack mode.
This is a cheat.
Dallas. Yeah. What I want to know, just from your perspective, what did you think attack mode kind of summed up into for this race, and what do you see it becoming for the rest of the race season?
Well, what I see from this is what I was assuming, just because speaking from going to 2 wheels of power to 4, it was going to be quicker. What I did not expect is that when they showed the top down of one of the Jaguars passing in attack mode, I think it was nice guy Nick Cassidy, I thought for a second that there were blue flags and that cars were yielding because he was zipping all the way down the straight, just passing cars like they were nothing. I think this confirms of what we talked about in the preview episode, that this is going to be a legitimate strategic element that each team has to now think about with more thought process than they did in previous years in the Gen 3 era, where it's just like, oh, okay, I guess at this point we'll drive offline and take this attack mode. It's like, no, now it's legitimate. And we saw some very pivotal moments of this race that came down to when the teams were taking attack mode. And it was tough too with, I think it was the second red flag, which was Jake's lockup brakes car just decided to shut off, where attack mode kept running. And I was explaining to a new Formula E fan as we were watching, I said, oh yeah, they're going to run out of that. That's, they lost out on that time for, I think it was Jean-Eric Verne took his attack mode right before, or actually right after Jake Dennis, not spun out, but locked up and was just dead on the track. He had taken it, and then they went to red flag. So attack mode, just gone. So I think,
it's spent. It happened to Oliver Rowland as well.
Yeah.
For the second red flag, which was Jake Dennis's. Yeah, it was a really, really important thing to see. So yes, attack mode is now so powerful that the risk of losing it during a yellow flag, or in this situation, a red flag, which, don't get me wrong, like, there are red flags in Formula E. It's not often you get 2 red flags in Formula E. Like, you'll get crashes, you'll get people bumping into each other, yellow flags, which will certainly oftentimes waste out an attack mode. But to come all the way back into the pits, stop your cars and completely lose it, that's entirely different. So the risk reward of taking attack mode, while this series is as chaotic as it is massive. And I know that there's probably going to be people that are like, oh, that's not real racing, that's luck and chance. It's like a Mario Party mini game where it's like, oh, random situation happens. I think it is magnificent to sit down and have kind of like a poker chip or a dice roll, and how thoughtfully you can organize when and how to take, this insane power up like throughout a race, and like where to take it and how to take it. Because like we saw, it is a game changer late in the race, right? Mitch Evans and all the Jaguars and all the McLarens that still had that attack mode left, they finished the race far ahead of the rest of the pack. Oliver Rowland, if had that not been a second red flag, he would have been, 7-8 seconds ahead of the rest of the attacking pack. He would have been so far out that it truly would have felt like it was his race. So I think that there's an entire new world of strategy that's going to go into this racing series, because yes, the risk of your attack mode being useless is significantly higher now than it ever has been. The risk of racing really aggressively is really high. And, there's always going to be like a comparison to like this in DRS, right? People do not like DRS because it's just like a free overtake button that you're going to get a chance to use and deploy. That it's, doesn't really require a tremendous amount of skill. Have you fucking seen what these drivers are doing when they have the power up? They are weaving through like 12 cars, like within like 3 inches of each other in traffic. So the risk of just crashing while using this is also super high. Like, being too aggressive is gonna waste your attack mode because you're gonna get damage. Like, it is not just a simple, oh, I pushed to overtake this person on the straight. This is like, I am overtaking 7 people on a straight, and in probably about 2 laps, those 7 people are all going to try to now overtake me with absolute ease. So there is a pretty level playing field, but it's coming down to like actual driver skill of how you're going to navigate, your situational awareness of how to really put that power down and make up that ground through a pack, because there is still that pack racing style, which I think is frankly what makes these races so exciting. Dallas, this race was so crazy. This was such a crazy, insane experience to watch. So I think we just got to get into it and say, RIP Robin Frijns, you did not get a chance to join into the melee. These Jaguar powertrains are seeming to have some technical issues going on. It's not fully figured out, but the cut to this image truly, like, so what was it? It was like back in like what season 5, 6, 7, or the 2020 season, where we had Mitch Evans' Jaguar failed to start and Eduardo Mortara just rear mounted him and they blew up both their title championships. It was like 2020, right?
I think, yeah, 2020, 2021.
Yeah. So Robin Frijns is sitting here thinking about that, except for these cars go 0 to 60 in like a blink of an eye. So the penetration that's happening on his car is about to be more severe than anything anyone's experienced. That's not a great way to start a season. So thank God the Stewart didn't just think he was waving hello. I'm excited to see the race start.
Yeah, clearly something was going wrong and potentially royally wrong. And I was thinking about this when Frijns pretty much he called off his own race because of an issue with the car. But when there were the collisions that happened in this race, specifically the Halfpenny Hughes and Nico Mueller collision, and watching what happens to the wrist, commentators were talking about that new program or feature hardware in the wheel that's supposed to dampen it. So it's like you have to think with the glass wrist man himself, Robin Frijns, that he would be fine to maybe take a risk of that getting plowed behind. If we look at the starting grid of who was directly behind him, it was none other than the butcher, Lucas deGrassi. So he would have.
he was going to cut him down. Yeah, he was going to cut him down, man. Robin Frijns was about to be walking out of here, the headless Dutchman.
So it was interesting though, because race is about to start. I'm super excited because of what happened at this track last year. And then we get a holdup. And then for whatever reason, I don't know if we'll see him again this season. Maybe he just took this one off because it's near the holidays. But Scott Elkins was not the race director in this race. We had another guy who was just extremely courteous with his announcements to every team. Is like, okay, we're not going to start, actually. Just look at the lights and everyone have fun, but we have an issue with the car. And then they just push Frijns back into the pits, and they cut back to him like lap 5, lap 6, whenever it was. He's still sitting in his car. Like, I don't know why he didn't get out.
I think you and I both know why he didn't get out.
Well, explain it to me.
He was sitting in a lake of his own diarrhea. That, you know, we have the historic and famed diarrhea DNF, where a driver shits their pants so hard they cannot finish the race. Robin Frijns was not ready for the start of this season. The starting light, the known G forces that were about to be thrown into his neck. This man. Actually, to be fair, he probably saw his dashboard go black, and that's when he shit his pants. Like, he was like, "I'm about to die," and I got to start waving. Like, that's the wave of I'm ashamed of my fear. Yeah, it is. Robin Frijns, I am so sorry you did not get to engage in the melee. I am so excited to see what comes next. Please get into that track, because I'm ready to see it fight back.
Yeah, and let this be a lesson to all the drivers as you travel around the world this season. Get your digestive tract, up to snuff with the local culinary options, because we can only sit here and speculate that it might have been some Brazilian cuisine that got the best of him.
Do you think the spectators are like waving back to him? I'm just like looking at this giant row of spectators, and being at a Formula E race myself, I'm like, is he waving at us? Like, the field marshals is one thing. The entire group of Brazilian fans to his left, they're like, what's he doing?
I mean, it's such small pixels for the crowd on the left. You have to imagine though, who you don't see on frame is just going, hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now they pushed Frijns back into the pits, had him sit in his stink for a while until he was ready to get out and the camera crews walked away. Then the action happened and then the chaos happened. So the first incident, this happened, I think lap 3, we had that super tight chicane down that back straight, or what separates the back straight, where a lot of action happened in this race. The first instance was between J.K. Penny Hughes and Nico Mueller. And I have a video of this, and this was kind of a foreshadowing as to what was to come in this race at this specific part of the track.
And, I will say this in fairness, too. When I first saw the incident happen, I was like, oh, there's going to be some bad blood between these boys starting out. I don't know what it is, but there's something about like Nico Mueller and Jake Hughes. It just seemed like they're going to be good rivals, Like they're kind of in that same like skill bracket ceiling, like a lot of potential, really smart, witty drivers, still kind of on the under like the Dennises and the Van Dorns of the team. Neither one of them deserved this. They both got like punted and into each other. This was like, if I remember right, it's Buemi hits Hughes on the corner, and Mueller gets, I think, tapped from.
That's Beckman. Beckman taps him. And the only reason I know it's Beckman is because once this loops back around, see that first Kiro that just comes barreling down in the corner? That's Danny Boy Dan Tictum, just testing out the fortitude of that new front wing and potentially maybe causing this incident. And
we're going to talk about Kiro a little bit later on, but let's just preface this by saying they're on track to beating their entire season's points from last year, all like in the next 2 races. But Dallas, first yellow flag of the race season. It's like lap 3. The melee and Carnage is back. And more importantly, the front wings are holding up.
They're nice and strong.
They're little sledgehammers. They are back to punching each other up and down the track, and to some benefit and to some avail, as we'll learn. The Formula E is back to being a full contact sport. They got steering dampers. So now their wrists aren't going to be smashed into dust upon tire-to-tire contact, and their front wings are going to turn into razor blades that slice your opponent's head off, like what we almost saw in fucking Portland with Pascal Wehrlein throwing his katana around. So a lot of upgrades overall to the season and to the racing. I have not been more excited to see a race happen than this. Frankly, I'm just gonna say this out loud. This was one of the most exciting starts to a season I've ever seen. Not because it's Sao Paulo, but because of all of the changes they've made to these cars are making this series more dynamic than it's been in the past 3 years.
Well, and to just give credit, I absolutely love this track because last year was arguably the best race of the season. And then this year, there's only one race down. But for all the action to happen at this track, I can't imagine a better track to just bring everything out and show everyone what this season is going to have in store. And last year, we had flimsy front wings that at this track caused Nice Guy Nick to go skateboarding as his front wing went under his tires. This year we found out that these cars can do kickflips, and that was also kind of at the hands of Nice Guy Nick Cassidy.
Let's be very clear, all right? People have always tried to Tony Hawk these cars, right? We had Nice Guy Nick trying to do a 50-50 board slide over Mitch Evans, 2 years ago. In Rome, we've had Nice Guy Nick doing a board slide straight into the goddamn benches. Like, These cars, the Pop Shove It from last year at Sao Paulo, right? The airborne Nick Cassidy, where he popped all four wheels into the air. This track has all sorts of really great places to get your skate score up. But I think the big thing that we need to talk about is what flavor of championship fuck you sandwich Pascal just got in the first race of the season.
I thought that we might have watched a program just completely corrupt itself on the live feed.
I don't know if AI can die, but I was worried for a second.
Yeah, it was close. I mean, we waited the payoff to watch this replay, and for one, know that Pascal was okay, but to wait, we had to wait for what, 10 minutes? The red flag. They all came in. We have no shots anywhere near that part of the track, and we're like, did we just watch an unkillable piece of technology just cease to exist? I was a little nervous. It's like they're not going and showing the replay.
So Pascal got a huge fucking circuit scrambler. He really got that shit scrambled up. Also, Max Gunter got punted straight into the wall by Nick Cassidy. Honestly, I think it's probably safe to say that after the first race of the season, this is the beginning of Nick Cassidy's villain arc in the championship.
So I think we can look at race winners from last year and put together a hit list for Nick Cassidy, because he took out the gun. Didn't Max Gunther win Tokyo last year? If I'm not mistaken.
Sure did. Yep.
And then Pascal, of course, is the world champion from last year. So there's 2 down, and however many other race winners there are, we'll have to.
Pascal, the idea that you just said Pascal is down when he was clearly up in the air, upside down. He's less down, more upside down. It is a brutal and aggressive crash. It is something that I think is really important for all of the drivers to slow down and recognize, hey, the way that we're probably racing, the things that we're probably doing, that we've gotten comfortable with, they're not going to cut it. These cars are that much more powerful, that much faster. There's serious threat of injury and danger that's going to come in to the ways that we're racing right now. And we're probably going to need to pump the brakes a little more than we typically do for the safety of our fellow drivers, but not fucking Nick Cassidy. He is going to goddamn kill people.
If it allows him to win that driver's championship that he has been chasing and has been fluked out of for multiple years now.
Yeah, he's in the Harvey Dent stage of his career, where he was like the amazing positive prosecutor, and by the next race, half of his face is going to be decrepit, and he's going to flip a coin to figure out which driver he's going to slash the tires for.
Yeah, do you think he walks around the paddock before the race and just has a coin and just walks up, gets very close to the driver and just flips a coin and then just walks away?
Yeah,
he tucks his hand where the coin landed.
Anton Sugar, the No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Call it. Yeah. So good Lord. I think, if Jaguar is going into a season trying to pick a favorite, trying to pick a number one best child, Dallas, I have to ask you right now, who is your favorite son of Jaguar? Because my answer is pretty clear at this point.
So hold on. If you're asking me as me if I were James Barclay, or if you're asking me of what I think James Barclay thinks?
If you are James Barclay, who are you picking as the favorite Jaguar son?
I mean, just because my driver just came up to me and flipped a coin and didn't say anything, I have to go with nice guy Nick Cassidy.
He's your favorite son?
I think off of just intimidation and just getting mean mugged, I my hands are tied on that one. But then I look and be like, Mitch kind of just won the race. I don't know.
From last place too. I am a staunch an avid. I'm taking the stance now, just so you know, the bias is coming forward right now. I am all on Mitch Evans' side. He has been in the championship fight for so long. This is the first season he's ever won a race right out the start, and we thought he was going to be clown card all the way in the back. Like, he went from last place to first place, Dallas. The guy surely got lucky. You know, he got absorbently lucky in the ways that he was able to carve through the field, the ways that those safety cars came in, the ways that the red flags happened. He got absorbently lucky, but he also raced out of his mind in order to secure that first place trophy. And I mind you this, the guy has been in the title championship for, I think, the past 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
And every single time he has been cut down by some bullshit. He has to be the favored son of Jaguar at this point. Like, he has to be. He's put the time and energy in. Nick Cassidy can certainly be the new Butcher, but Mitch Evans has to be the new nice guy.
Well, we call back to last episode. Mitch Evans was my call for winning the championship this year.
He certainly so. And that's a great transition topic, because mine is Oliver Rowland. And what the fuck did we see? But that Nissan powertrain is mean. That thing is fast. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see it basically take all 4 places up front, but we got close to seeing it.
The Nissan's a little bit too fast.
Yeah, Dallas. So we watched Oliver Rowland essentially dominate this weekend from basically the starts of the free practices all the way to the second red flag of the race. He was out there, and he was untouchable. And Norman Nato also pretty in the mix, top to bottom. The McLarens doing pretty well. Like, they were definitely in the mix in that upper top kind of qualifying groups as well. But we had an issue that plagued all 4 cars this race, which is the overpower issue. So apparently there was a technical glitch that managed to sneak its way into the Nissan powertrain and some of the software that they're using that activates or that deactivates the all-wheel drive after race starts. So after the race start, as they're going into that first corner, they're using too much power as the all-wheel drive kind of kicks off, or something along those lines. I'm not entirely sure what the total technical ticket is, but it managed to plague all 4 cars. Now, Oliver Rowland managed to get away with it for a long time. It wasn't until that second red flag that came out and that second race restart where he had that same issue happen, where he had the overpower issue. Nissan says they know what the glitch is now. They've got it fixed, which means I think it's going to be a very, very dominant upcoming season for Nissan, which is A-okay with me because I am going all in on Nissan this year. I am so stoked at an Oliver Rowland championship. Holy shit. That guy is looking like he is in the form of his life.
What do you want me to add there? He looked incredible.
He looked incredible. It was so good, man. We're gonna have fucking dad on the top step. Of course, Formula E is a absolute lottery as to what a weekend is going to look like, right? There's never a clear picture. But the gains and the leaps forward that so many people were talking about and speculating that Nissan was making, I think became somewhat clear in the bigger picture of this weekend. And so I think, yeah, top to bottom, I think there's 3 top competitive teams and 3 mid-competitive teams. And then we got Kiro.
Hey, they looked phenomenal out there.
What do you think your stock investment is going to be for Kiro?
Well, seeing as how I'm still holding on to my Neo shares. And now at this point, it's just stupid investment decisions. But seeing Kiro out there and actually running in the points for the majority of the race. Now, we had a huge swing of drivers. When we were talking about those other Nissan powered cars, the McLarens, Sam Bird and the Roblox Prince, Taylor Bernard, they started 16th and 17th respectively. They finished 3rd and 4th. So with Kiro, I mean, where did Kiro start? We had Dan Ticktum right outside the points qualifying at 11th. He ended up finishing in the points, something we rarely ever saw last season in that ERT hunk of garbage. He finished 8th. He got his 4 points. I'm very excited to see what Kiro can do now that they have this partnership with Cupra. They actually have a legitimate competitive car. And now we've seen one race in that they can be in that midfield, actually pick up points. So for all the thousands, if not millions of people out there that were holding out for the Neo, ERT, Kiro camp, the Dan Ticktum fanboys and fangirls, I think our time is now.
Oh, it most certainly is, Dallas. The time has never been more now than now. Do I think that Kiro is going to win the championship? Absolutely not. Do I think that they're going to win a race? Probably not. Do I think that they are going to redirect their entire points on average for their company, for the entire racing team's history? I 100% do. Up here, you're going to see a graph. All right, there's a graph I put together just real quick. I calculated the points that ERT/Neo managed to accrue competitively since their debut in season 1. The average points per season that they were able to pretty much accomplish was around 39 points per season. They had a pretty good entry season, garbage like bulks of their seasons, some light competitive seasons, but basically 39 points on average each season. In one race, Kiro managed to score 10% of what their average points are. Now, there's a lot that goes into that, right? We had half the field essentially go down. But they were fighting. I don't think they're the sharp end of the spear when it comes to the board. But when there are points on the table, I think that they're going to be able to take them and pick them up. And I think that is amazing because that is going to shoot Dan Ticktum's stock much higher than it's ever been, where like he's probably going to feel somewhat prideful to be a face of a team. And in addition to that, Dallas, like we're going to keep this graph going to show how far Kiro's come in just one season by replacing their Hobby Lobby electric motor. But Dallas, there's one other team that managed to stick themselves right up into the points that were on the table. That was Mahindra.
The Mahindra, indeed. I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised, but I was definitely surprised to see Ido Mortara and Nick DeVries in that top spot. Now, I think there's a very important asterisk to put that you already said, that there were a lot of drivers that were knocked out of this race. So it's like, of course, someone has to score points, but it wasn't like we had ERT at like the guaranteed like back markers of almost every single race last season. And then just a little bit further in front of them were the Mahindra boys.
Dallas, the last 2 seasons, you forget this, is like the entire Gen 3 era, Mahindra as well as Neo have been completely uncompetitive.
Right, but for at least one race into this season so far, Mahindra they were doing some stuff. We look at a P5 and a P6 finish for both of them. Where did they start out?
I think that they might have basically outscored themselves from entire last season in one race.
Oh, they had like 4 points last season. So yeah, 100% they outscored themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this is a really good point to say because there's no wrong team now in this championship. This is easily the most competitive this series has ever been. It means that, as we've already seen, there's going to be a lot of melee that's happening, especially with the aggressive qualities of attack mode. Cars are going to go down. Cars are going to go down almost probably every race, more than we've seen. They were very polite in the last couple seasons because of the pack racing strategies, the fear of what's going in and out, the whiplash that's going to happen to your hands. Like there's a lot of polite racing, less aggressive just because you didn't quite have the control. But like I'd been saying all the way up to this season, they are going to make really bold, really aggressive moves top to bottom. And I'm telling you that this is the first race, and we had, 6, 7 DNFs?
5 DNFs, 1 DNS with Robin Frijns, and then for whatever reason, it didn't get labeled as a DNF, but he didn't finish the race. That was the other Kiro driver, David Beckman. The other field reporter for Kiro News, David Beckman. He did not finish the race, but he did not get a DNF designation. But if he did, which, I mean, just looking at the info here, he definitely did. That's 6 DNFs.
If we presume that 1/5 of the entire fucking paddock goes down each race, almost a quarter of the entire grid goes down each race, you're gonna see Mahindra and Kiro in the points probably more races than you'd expect.
Well, and if we can take this first race as any sort of marker for what these other races will hold, which we have to wait a very long time before we see more Formula E action. But if that's the case, that it's almost a guarantee that we're going to have DNFs and hand-waving DNSs. And I think Mahindra and then now Kiro, they're definitely teams to look out for. That they're going to shake things up. I think this championship race, it's going to be a lot closer, not just coming down to like 3 or 4 drivers going into London. I think it's going to be incredibly tight throughout the majority of the field. We might be even looking at, a 5th or a 6th driver that statistically has a real potential to take home the championship. Whereas, Ollie Rowland had dysentery, wasn't able to race out in the Oregon Trail. Yeah. He was in it until he wasn't. And then, all the chaos that ensued in London. I think Kiro and Mahindra, if we look at it at the end of the season, I think they are going to have a pivotal role on keeping things interesting for this race, for the entire championship.
Like, I don't think they're going to move up the grid as far as points they're scoring comparatively, but I think that the gaps between, 11th in their constructors standings versus, 5th in the standings for teams, there's going to be a significantly more narrow gap going from the top to bottom.
Yeah, and I think as race fans, as Formula E fans, I couldn't be more stoked. I'll refresh my feed every day. I'll watch this race back just to relive it until we get Mexico City, and then do it again with those 2 races until we get Jeddah, and then do it over and over again until we get Miami all the way in April. But before we depart from this first race of this season, we do need to talk a little bit more about the DNFs, because we need to dish out our award for the diarrhea no finish. And just as a refresher, yes, it was a DNS for Robin Frijns, but I think it's safe to assume that the reason he did not start is because he shat himself. And then there was Pascal doing a kickflip, not really able to continue after that. We had Penny and Mueller cracking into each other. And then we had Jake Dennis that had an issue with the car, locked up.
And yeah. We didn't talk about this one. This one was actually pretty interesting. So Jake Dennis way overcooked his attack coming into a straight, and did a full 4-wheel lockup, skid straight into the runoff on that first chicane, and then got a red car. And a red car is bad. because these are electric vehicles. There is a little indicator switch that is on the vehicle that says when you're okay to get in or get out of the car. But then there's a red light that comes on. And when that red light comes on, that means this car is a gigantic electric bomb right now. Which means like if he were to have tried, if he were to have tried to get out of that car and managed to touch the car and the ground at the same time, he could have potentially electrocuted himself. So that's where they have to send out the electrical field marshals, where they're wearing they put out the big rubber blanket. They try to get the driver out, completely remove them from the car without making any sort of electrical contact from the car to the ground, to the driver. So we, in several seasons, we haven't really had that, because every time there's been a huge crash, it's just been like an explosive crash that's red flag something. But this is one of those situations where it's like we couldn't have driving around track because they needed to try to save Jake Dennis from sticking a fork in the toaster. So that was essentially, that was actually the first time in like my recent memory that I remember we had a red car situation. So that was pretty interesting. Yeah. So Jake Dennis almost dropped the hairdryer straight in the bathtub.
I think we need to disqualify him from getting a diarrhea no finish just because of the sheer skill of navigating through that first turn and not taking anyone else out of the race and not combining or colliding batteries together to make a small electrical nuclear explosion. So I don't think we need to consider Jake Dennis.
Hey, that's true. But if we scrub through that footage and you look at Jake Dennis's car on the introduction of that red car announcement, that thing is putting out a steamer out the back end.
Oh yeah.
There was a big old steamer. He overclocked the regen on those rear brakes, and that thing had some steam coming off the back like it was in heat.
Okay, so then with all the DNFs considered, is Jake Dennis your vote for diarrhea no finish?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I mean 100%. Pascal's digital dookie flip was the DNF of the week. But also, I mean, Nick Cassidy's, basically, if Pascal didn't crap out like $6 million worth of Bitcoin from that flip, then I would say that it would be Nick Cassidy, for his villain arc introduction. But I mean, I'm in it for Pascal. What about you, Dallas?
Well, Nick Cassidy also finished the race. He came in, got a new front wing on. He was lapped. He was the back marker, but he did finish the race.
What a dick.
No, my vote is for someone who didn't even DNF. It's Robin Frijns. Just calling it at the beginning.
Look, I'm unfortunately worried that Robin Frijns is going to get our diarrhea DNF of the season just after the first race. I feel like that's a dark horse that has arrived to the paddock. You know, there's a shrouded figure that reeks of porta potty that's just looming over him at all points now.
Well, we wish the best of him moving forward this season.
I mean, it's got to be Frijns. I was trying to save him from the humiliation of what is to come, but I think that you're absolutely right.
Well, before we get out of here, I have one bit of news that is absolutely fantastic for our friends in the UK, and I found it on none other than the non-soul crushing platform of LinkedIn. Jeff Dodds announcing that Formula E now has a streaming partner in the UK.
That's right, ITV, and it's going to be free to air.
Yeah, now I don't know much about watching the telly in the UK, but I'm pretty sure you have to have a license. You have to pass a TV watching test. You need a learner's permit, all that. But if this is just on the internet, free of broadcast, old school broadcast television, this has to be phenomenal news for UK fans, where Formula E is based out of the UK, out of London, and it isn't until now that they have a reliable and easily consumable viewing source.
I mean, honestly, I'm frankly just glad that there's going to be more eyes on the absolute carnage that this season has already turned into. I think that this is kind of like a growth period for Formula E, where right now they are going to be having so much action on track that it's going to be hard for people to look away from what the sport is offering. I mean, the sheer performance of what the attack mode has showed up and represented just in the first race is like miles ahead of what we had historically been experiencing with the entire last generation, where like we were almost laughing at what was going on with their tire usage, right? So I am so excited for more eyes on this beautiful little sport, and so excited to get more fandom organized around it as well.
Well, and as more eyes go, feel free to check us out on YouTube and on Instagram at Circuit Breakers Pod. Same with TikTok. Taylor, do you have any closing remarks as we go into the long wait for Mexico City? Is until January. Oh, we have a problem with the Taylor.
That's just how I let people know I shit my pants.
Lastly, but certainly not leastly, shout out to It's Tricky for our intro and outro music. You can check out his SoundCloud in the description and in the show notes. Taylor, I'll see you. We teased it a little bit at the end of the last episode. Maybe we will try to have some filler content in between now and Mexico City, or between Mexico City and Jeddah, or between Jeddah and Miami. It'll happen. Maybe.
It's gonna be a long time. Anyway, my NyQuil has been beckoning me.
Well, then heed that beckon, and I will talk to you later.